For decades, the sound of Australia wasn't just the surf or the bush. It was the rhythmic hum of the assembly line. In the 1960s, a young man could walk out of high school on a Friday and start a job at the Holden or Ford plant on a Monday. That job didn't just pay a wage. It bought a suburban house, a family car, and a guaranteed future. It was the bedrock of the Australian middle class. But then, the machine stopped. We were told that opening our borders to the world would make us richer, that we would become a clever country. But as the factory doors locked for the last time, the deal that built this nation began to vanish. Today, Australia doesn't make things anymore. We make debt. We have traded our industrial heart for a real estate bubble. This is the story of how the Australian working class was left behind, and what we really lost when we stopped building our own future. Behind the numbers, there was a promise. For a generation, the factory floor was the foundation of ordinary Australian life. The so-called tariff wall, 30% on imports, sometimes more, wasn't just economic policy. It was a shield built by governments who believed that making things at home meant a better life for working people. By 1973, manufacturing jobs reached their height. 1.46 million Australians clocked in each day, nearly 1 in 4 workers. In the steel towns of Newcastle, the hum of the mill echoed through every kitchen window. A steelworker there, after a shift, could walk home knowing his pay would cover the mortgage, the bills, and leave enough for a footy club membership for his kids. This was not luxury. It was the baseline, the deal that honest work should buy a house, support a family, and build a future. Suburbs like Elizabeth and Broadmeadows grew out of this certainty. Their streets lined with brick homes bought on the strength of a single wage. High pay from union-negotiated awards flowed directly into the new suburbs, fueling a wave of home ownership that set Australia apart. The security was real, and so was the pride. People believed in the dignity of their work because the country believed in protecting it. In those years, the factory job was the backbone of the middle class, a living, breathing social contract, not just an economic statistic. In 1973, the ground shifted beneath Australia's factories. Oil prices didn't just rise, they exploded, quadrupling in the space of a year. For steelworks and car plants, energy costs surged overnight, swallowing up margins that had always been razor thin. In Newcastle, the price of running the blast furnaces soared, with electricity bills up nearly 50%. Every tonne of steel, every finished car, now cost more to make than ever before. But the world outside Australia's walls was changing even faster. Japanese and South Korean companies began landing their goods on Australian docks. Televisions, cars, shirts, each stamped with a price tag local factories could not hope to match. The so-called tariff wall, once a fortress, started to look more like a dam with cracks. By the late 1970s, shop floors that had run 3 shifts a day were cutting hours, laying off workers, and watching orders dry up. The promise that a factory job could buy a house and a future began to falter. Suddenly, the certainty of honest work felt fragile. Workers who had built their lives on the rhythm of the assembly line saw imported goods undercut their wages and push their own products off the shelves. The warning was clear. The old deal, work hard, live decently, was slipping away. What had been the baseline for a generation was now at risk, and the sense of security that built whole suburbs was beginning to unravel. Tariffs that once protected Australian factories began to tumble in the 1980s. Under the Hawke and Keating governments, the average tariff on manufactured goods dropped from around 25% to just 5% by the early 1990s. Policy papers called it necessary modernisation, a way to force local industry to compete, to innovate, to become part of the global market. The reforms were sold as a ticket to the future, with politicians promising a smarter, more dynamic economy. Economists lined up behind the plan, arguing that cheaper imports would put more money in the pockets of ordinary families. And on the surface, it worked. Within a decade, the price of a Japanese car fell by nearly 30%. Electronics, clothes, and appliances that had once been out of reach for many households became everyday purchases. But the new bargains came with a hidden cost. The old tariff wall had been more than a tax on imported goods, it was a shield for wages, for skills, for the belief that a steady job could build a life. As the barriers came down, the shelves filled with foreign-made products, and Australian factories found themselves exposed. The numbers in the official reports told one story: greater efficiency, lower prices, a win for consumers. But in the towns built around the hum of machines, the mood was different. People wondered what would be left when the dust settled, and whether the promise of becoming a clever country would ever replace the certainty of honest work. The seeds of industrial vulnerability were sown, quietly, policy by policy, as the old deal faded into memory. The end did not come with a bang, but with the slow, grinding silence of machines shutting down for the last time. Ford closed its Broadmeadows plant in 2016, sending hundreds out the gate with a handshake and a cardboard box. Toyota followed just a year later, its final car rolling out of Altona in 2017. Then, on the morning of October the 20th at 10:45, the last Holden Commodore eased down the line in Elizabeth. 955 workers stood by, many with decades behind them, watching as a piece of Australia's identity disappeared into history. The numbers are staggering, but the true weight is personal. Lachlan, who spent 27 years at Holden, remembers the floor trembling, not from the engine, but from the knowledge that everything he had built his life on was ending. After 27 years, the skills he had built were suddenly obsolete, he said. He had to start over, learning to drive a forklift in a warehouse. It was not just the people on the line. According to the Productivity Commission, the closures would cost around 40,000 jobs nationwide, including parts suppliers, transport drivers, tool makers, and cleaners. In the space of a few years, the industrial heart of the country was hollowed out. For the workers, there was no grand send-off, no national reckoning, just a last clock-off, a final pay packet, and the slow realisation that the old deal, work hard and live decently, had been quietly withdrawn. The numbers tell their own story. In 1994, manufacturing still claimed 13.3% of all Australian jobs, over 1.1 million people working in factories, workshops and plants. 30 years later, that share has fallen to just 5.9%. Today, fewer than 933,000 Australians make a living from manufacturing, even as the country's population has soared. That's a loss of nearly 170,000 jobs since the mid-1990s, a steady erosion that no wave of new industries has managed to replace. The decline isn't just a blip or a regional story. It is a structural contraction, confirmed by every official count. What was once the backbone of working-class stability has shrunk to a thin thread, leaving behind not just empty sheds, but a gap where middle-class security used to be. A generation ago, a single wage from the factory floor could buy a house. Now the numbers tell a different story. The median house price stands at 12 times the average annual wage. Home ownership for people in their 30s has crashed to just 38%. The old promise that honest work would secure a future has been replaced by debt, uncertainty, and the grind of renting. Lachlan, who once built cars at Holden, retrained as a forklift driver after the plant closed. He says that it's not just the job you lose, it's the chance to own a home, to give your kids what you had. For many, the dream of stability has slipped out of reach, replaced by mortgages that last a lifetime. Today, a young worker stacks shelves, not engines, and rents a room, not buys a home. Australia traded its industrial heart for a real estate bubble. The promise was a clever country. What remains is debt and insecurity. The real loss is certainty that honest work could ever build a life.